Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and you all are very welcome to the Planning Committee Small Applications. My name is Councillor Cleo Sounds, Chair of this committee. Before we start the meeting, I have a few housekeeping announcements to make. There are no planned fire alarm tests today, so if you hear the fire alarm, please leave by the nearest fire exit and make your way to the agreed assembly point, which is at St John's Churchyard off Druid Street, and council security staff will be available to direct you. The public toilets are located off the main reception area. There is a refreshment machine for use by members of the public in the waiting area outside this meeting room. Finally, please switch your mobile phone to silent whilst in the meeting room. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel, so if you address the committee, please do not disclose any information you do not wish to be in the public domain. Members of the public are welcome to film, audio, record or photograph or post on social media the public proceedings of the meeting. I'd ask you to please be considerate towards other people in the room and take care not to disturb the proceedings. If you are filming the meeting, please do not film the audience. You are welcome to use our free guest Wi-Fi at Southwark. No login is required. During the meeting, members of this committee will not access the internet except as it relates to the official business of the meeting. Send or receive emails, text messages or post on social media concerning the business of the committee. I would also like to remind speakers to use their microphones when speaking, as only the audio from the microphones is captured on the live stream, and not to place their mobile phones next to the microphones to avoid interference. I have apologies from two committee members today, Councillor Nick Johnson and Councillor Sam Foster. Can we have confirmation of voting members this evening? Thank you. And I do have apologies for lateness from Councillor Sabina Emanuel, but she will not sit on the first item. She will sit on the second item of this evening's agenda. The addendum report and members' pack have been circulated. Does any member wish to declare any interest or dispensation in respect of any item or issue to be considered at this meeting? Councillor Livingston?
Yeah, this is just for complete transparency. Many years ago, I was a member of the board of Leathermarket JMB, which is obviously related to the second item. That's a relationship that came to an end in 2007, so 19 years ago, and it's before Leathermarket CBS existed. I've tested this with officers before, though, who don't believe that's a prejudicial interest, and indeed I have in planning committee voted against the observations made by Leathermarket JMB as well, so I think I've demonstrated there is no prejudicial interest, but just to put that on the record.
Thank you very much, Councillor Livingston. That's really clear, thank you, and transparent. Although I was not present at that meeting, can we agree the minutes for those members who did sit on the meeting held on the 8th of December as an accurate record of the proceedings?
Agreed.
Thank you. The next item of business concerns the determination of planning applications. I would like to remind everyone of the committee guidance on the conduct of business. Officers will present the report, outline their recommendations and answer questions raised by the committee. Each present and wishing to speak may address the committee for no more than 3 minutes. And if there's more than one spokesperson, then they need to divide that time, and it would be helpful if they decide in advance, just to save time and make things run more smoothly. Then the applicant, and similarly, has 3 minutes, followed by any questions from committee members, any objectors, similarly, anyone that lives within supporters, anyone that lives within 100 metres, and ward councillors. Each speaker should restrict their comments to the planning aspects of the proposal and should avoid repeating the information which is already in the report. At the end of each presentation, the committee may ask questions of the presenter. We will now consider the planning applications. There's an an addendum report that has been circulated, which the planning officer will speak to. However, I'd like to read out a short statement. On the 8th of December 2025, the application for Bush Road, application 24/AP/3577 Land Rear 19 to 49 Bush Road, London, SE8 5AP. This application was initially heard on the 8th of December 2025 and was adjourned for officers to address the concerns regarding consultation with neighbouring properties. Number 2, engage with Lewisham Council on traffic-related issues. And number 3, obtain a detailed response from Thames Water. Today's meeting, therefore, will focus on those 3 matters only and the addendum report, which provides updates in respect of these 3 matters. The other aspects of the application were discussed at the meeting on the 8th of December 2025. The committee in its deliberation will therefore consider the officer recommendation that planning permission be granted subject to conditions and the completion of a Section 106 agreement. As this is on a follow-on agenda item from the previous meeting on the 8th of December, my Vice Chair, who chaired the meeting at the time, Councillor Jane Salmon, should take over as Chair for this item only. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair has mentioned, my name is Councillor Jane Salmon, and I will take over for this item only. The first thing we will do is I will invite the officer to present the addendum report, please.
I'm just going to share my screen. Just bear with me. Where is it now? No, let me do it. Oh, sorry. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Chair. Some technical difficulties. So as the Chair referred to the 3 points that the application was adjourned last time, so it's the consultation of neighbouring properties, engagement with Lewisham Council on traffic-related issues, and further responses from Thames Water. Firstly, on just background, so the application actually referred to crash data in the transport statement which was provided previously, but there were consultation responses back from Lewisham Council, and there were 2 issues that were taken up by the council. Firstly, it's the suggestion of 20-mile-per-hour roundels as form of mitigation to lower the speeds along Bush Road. So I have plans which I can show later on, and double yellow line parking restrictions on part of Bush Road as well. This is data from the transport assessment showing through from 2020 to 2024. And I have my transport colleague here, if there's any questions. In terms of engagement with Lewisham Council, as I referred, we took on some of their suggestions, which will be part of the Section 278 works in the legal agreement. So the double yellow lines and the roundels, which I referred to. There were also suggestions of widening the footway to reduce the carriageway width, and that was not considered appropriate a solution in this case. And there's also reference to the minimum distance from the front gate of 10 meters. In this case, the front gate is set back 8.5 meters from the carriageway, and officers consider that that is adequate given the limited in and out movement of vehicles, and then certainly compared to the previous use, which was more frequent vehicular movements. We will look at a new condition, possibly adapting condition 20 of the officer report, where at the moment we're looking at power-assisted gate specifically to the pedestrian gate. But I think that's a condition that we can amend to also include the main gate. The applicant provided detailed information recently as well regarding how the gates, both gates would be operated, so we can incorporate all those measures, and we think it's adequate in addressing those concerns. And we already have condition 15 as a student management plan for the move-in, move-out arrangements for future students. And just the point of clarification is the officer report previously referred to the public transport accessibility level of 5. It is actually a score of 4, but that wouldn't alter the assessment of the application. So the following slide shows the proposed mitigation in the Section 278 works, which would be on the slide. You can see in green, you have two locations for rounds, and then the yellow is the double yellow lines. The applicant, subsequent to this information, submitted the following plan showing the one roundel on the bend, and then it's a single lane, and as you move around the bend just further down the road widens to 2 lanes, so you can see 2 further roundels there. And the yellow line, that's a better depiction of the area to be covered by the double yellow lines. Just for clarity, this is where the entrance gate is, where my cursor is. And this is a aerial view of what Lewisham suggested in widening the footway. You can see in red, just a rough sketch of what their proposal was, but that is not an option that the council considered to be acceptable. And then lastly, the response from Thames Water was simply just saying they have no further comment. The applicant has undertaken a flow and pressure test at the south end of Bush Road, and the pressure would be approximately 1 bar and a flow rate of 9 liters per minute, and that is an acceptable flow and pressure measure. Just for completeness, there's the copy of the hydrant test certificate, which is carried out by an authorized body. Thank you, Chair.
So, Chair, if I may add to that presentation, we did send additional letters to neighboring properties. We sent 267 neighbor letters, and no further representations were received on this application following that additional consultation of neighbours.
Thank you. Do councillors have any questions for the officer? Councillor Mills.
It's not entirely clear why you've objected to, or why you've rejected the suggestion about the widened footpath. You've said it will create additional conflict between vehicles and road users, particularly pedestrians. I don't really understand why. I'm very happy to be convinced, but could you give us a bit more detail about that?
Yeah, so we spoke with the highways team, Transport Policy did, and their suggestion was that the give-way lines, which you can see at the vehicle access, would be sort of not in line with our Streets for People strategy, and that's because the vehicles would be sort of given priority over pedestrians who are looking to cross there. So instead of that, what we have is an SSDM compliant vehicle crossover. That's the technical document that highways use to assess road safety for pedestrians and cyclists and other vehicles. So they have assessed this and they're positive that it will be safe.
Sorry, can I just, it's a bit jargony for me. I don't know if you could give me a bit more detail in kind of like slightly more human language, sorry. When we were talking about this, it was less about pedestrians crossing the entranceway to the development site, and it was more about the kind of risks that people in cars wouldn't see a car in front turning into the entrance site. So I just want to be clear that the footpath or the widened footpath, wouldn't be an option to improve the kind of car movement issue.
Yes, I think it's probably important to remember that this is a car-free scheme, so there's not actually going to be any vehicles coming in the site with the exception of delivery and servicing vehicles. So that's, I believe, 12 trips a day or 6 vehicles coming in and out. So it's very minimal, and the current situation, I believe, is about 63 vehicles a day. So it's a massive reduction, and overall it's going to be a big improvement to the safety for everyone.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you for doing the extra work to contact Lewisham about these issues. I just wanted to check, because you've obviously set out in the report in paragraph 6 about what Lewisham has said and what the council's response is, but I just wanted to know whether that was shared with Lewisham and whether on this issue about the pavement width they'd kind of come back and said, yeah, you've got a point, or yeah, that seems reasonable, or you've reached a conclusion on that point with Lewisham.
So my understanding of Lewisham's comments was that they had sort of laid out a couple different options for us, that sketch being one of them. And they did say, if this is found not to be feasible, we would recommend doing the roundels and the double yellow lines. Okay, so the solution we've come up with does meet one of their 2 options, so therefore, thank you, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Thank you. Does anyone present wish to speak in objection to the application? Could they come forward? Yes. Are you Mr. Marshall? Jeremy Marshall, yes. If you could come to the desk here. Just a point that the meeting is being live streamed and a recording will be available on the council's YouTube channel. When introducing yourself, please only give your first name and the block or street you live in, not the exact address. And you do have 3 minutes in which to speak.
Sorry. Thank you very much again for listening and for the opportunity to speak. Firstly, I noticed that this document is on the desk here. It's not on the portal, so it's really difficult as a resident to actually understand what the community, what's happened since we last sat together, which goes exactly with point 1 on page 2 of the report, which says clearly addresses the concerns regarding consultation with neighbouring properties. So that issue has been magnified by this document not being available until someone gave it to me 10 minutes ago. So I'd also like to challenge some of the statements that Andre's made tonight onto the comparability of the flow of traffic into this space. If it can, Andre, I believe you said that there was in previous use, it was much more frequent. 2 years ago, this is a very quiet plant yard. Right now, the site has been partially cleared and some sort of rubbish recycling units are coming in with massive container units coming in and out. So if the comparability factors are what's happening today against what's going to happen in the future, then I can understand that conclusion. But that's not what's happened. The reality is that for the majority of the last 15 to 20 years, this has been a very quiet environment with access going in and out that, in my view, is going to increase. And that's after it's been constructed. The construction period is going to be a disaster. So I think if apples are being compared with other, apples need to be compared with apples, not other fruit. So essentially, having literally just seen this, that's basically where I am. I'd be very pleased to speak in more detail if you've got any questions about the consultation process.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the objector? Thank you.
You've picked up on the points that we've heard today, but it might just be useful for committee members, just to refresh our memories, if you could just outline the other points that you made at the previous committee, not in too much detail, because I know we don't want to take too much time, but just refresh our memory about the points that your objections includes, notwithstanding those you've just raised about consultation and about traffic.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. The prime objection that we have is the amount of daylight and sunlight that's being stolen. We understand and respect the process of any developer in any development isn't going to visit every property and make an assessment because that's uneconomic, of course. But however, there have been some serious assumptions that are basically wrong. We've had our own people look in. That report's been submitted, and there was a reply document. I don't think the reply stacked up to the questions. The reality is there's a heap of light being denied that has always been there. That's the prime thing. Yes, I won't dwell any more about the lack of, well, the non-consultation as far as we sit.
Any other questions from anybody?
Oh, sorry, forgive me.
Yeah.
We were also concerned about, a neighbour was concerned about supply of water, pressure of water coming in. We're on a different part of the site. Which gets flooded with sewage, dirty water, and we feel a lot more is coming our way. And we don't think that's been looked at or addressed in any way, shape or form as adequate.
Thank you. If you'd like to sit back in the audience, thank you very much. Is the applicant or an agent of the applicant present? Would you like to come forward? If you introduce yourself, and you also have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Alan Evans. On behalf of Bugler Homes, I'm at Rock Planning. Thank you, Madam, and thank you, Chair. Thank you. Good evening, members. Just to very briefly recap on some of the specific points. So in terms of highways and traffic movement, as your officers have diligently noted, the existing lawful use of the site is a industrial storage use. Over time, the occupier of the site has either altered in terms of lease of who's occupying the site, or indeed where the same occupier has been there, the activity associated with that site has varied as per commercial needs at the time. The previous plant hire use, as I understand it, had a trip rate of roughly 40 vehicles a day, so 20 in, 20 out. The proposed scheme has a substantial, significant reduction, and it's doing what the council's development plan policy tells us to do in terms of removing reliance on vehicles and vehicle movements in an urban and brownfield sites. So there will be a manifest improvement in pedestrian safety and the amenity associated with the use of the site. I think we've also submitted details in terms of the water pressure, which I know was a very specific concern and commentary from various neighbours. The Thames Water Asset Testing confirms that the pressure meets the standard requirements. Forgive me, I don't know the specific details. At the point at which the water is at the mains, Thames Water mains. I think the specific issue there relates to how water is then potentially pumped, up to housing existing or proposed. The scheme itself, we shared details, will have its own, water pumping facility to ensure that there is no additional draw on the Thames Water asset. And also in particular, I think it's important to note that currently the site has zero ability to absorb any form of rainwater or storm water. The proposal seeks or will include a sustainable urban drainage system which will reduce the runoff, i.e. the amount of water that goes elsewhere from currently there's about 50 litres per second down to 2 litres per second. So there's a manifest reduction there. I'm not going to go into detail on the daylight and sunlight aspects. The previously resolved AROS scheme, which of this scheme is almost identical in terms of volume, was resolved by officers on that point to have no prejudicial or no harm to existing residents, and indeed nor were there any objections at that point on that application with regard to that. The volume proposed today is almost identical, and in some places is in fact less. Other places that are slightly closer to the existing properties on Bush Road and Lower Road. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Evans? Oh, just out of we went to visit the site a while back, and there was a huge fly tip that had been. Is that what's being removed at the moment? Mr. Marshall mentioned recycling vans going out. I mean, it was an enormous fly tip. Is that what is being removed?
Yes, Chair. Yeah. Apologies, I didn't raise that point. Part of the site was recently leased to another storage, so open storage occupier. They have gone beyond, I think, what is termed reasonable storage of goods, and it was used for a very short period of time. To store all manner of materials. Rightly so, the council's enforcement team were very quickly involved. We've met with them on 3 occasions now. Once on site, 2 occasions. Once on site, once a follow-up teams meeting, and there's another meeting arranged to effectively close that matter out. So we've ensured that specific occupier moves on, does not do what they did previously.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you'd like to take a seat back there.
Thank you.
Does anyone present live within 100 metres of the development site and wish to speak in support of the application? No. Thank you. Do we have any ward councillors present? Would you like to come forward and introduce yourself? And as usual, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Councillor Kath Whittam for Rotherhithe Ward, where the application is cited. As we've only got the three things that we can talk about tonight, firstly, the consultation. There's no additional information as to where that extra consultation has taken place. Is it the same people who have been sent letters, or is it new people that have been sent letters? And were they asked for further information, or was it just a standard letter? I'd like to show you on the map where the entrance is, and where there is a huge cluster of collisions already in the last 4 years. I'll show you that if you ask me about it, please. Widening the pavement might be a good idea. Julie sent in an additional photo of a transit van across half the carriageway. So I don't know where that is and whether it has been circulated to the committee. Thames Water haven't answered any other questions. The problem with the water is that the nearby estates, which are 6 or 7 stories tall, one bar will not reach their tanks on the top of their estates. So that is why Thames Water have sent tankers to fill those up when they run dry. And this has happened on more than one occasion in recent history, and it will only be worse. The developer just said that there would be no additional call on the water. Well, you're building 106 bedrooms, of course there's going to be more call on the water. So whether they can maintain that amount of pressure and increase it so that they don't have to send tankers.
You have 30 seconds.
That's about it from me.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Councillor Whittam?
Thank you, Councillor Whittam, for coming to us again. Yeah, I just wanted to understand that last point. So we've got something from Thames Water which says clearly that they don't believe this is putting an increased pressure on the system. We've also heard the same from the applicant, that they may, yeah, I am certainly not of the view that there is not a problem about water pressure for the Haddonfield estate. What I'm not clear on, given what we've heard from both Thames and the developer, is what evidence have we got that this will make the situation worse? Because clearly it's not for this development to necessarily put right the problems with the water pressure which already exist.
But if you have 106 new bedrooms, then they're not going to row back on how many showers they have, how many baths, or how much they cook because the water's not there, how often they flush their toilets. It's going to be extra pressure on the supply. And if it's already failing, the Haddonfield estate, then it's only going to get worse without any extra infrastructure put in to bring a bigger pipe or an extra pipe. We've already had one small development in Cecily Dunn House, which has brought an extra, I think it's 12 flats. But the more you load onto that set of pipes, the worse it's going to get. I sort of thought that was obvious.
Yeah, I mean, none of us here, and I think that probably includes you, Kath, as well, are sort of expert water engineers. We have heard from expert water engineers that it isn't an issue. We've clearly got a situation where, I mean, from what I do know of the sort of hydraulic nature of the area, this is very close to an underground river, which I'm assuming might well be used by Thames as a water source in any case, in the route of the old Earl Sluice, which runs directly behind William Evans' house. So I could see how, if Thames are saying that this is all right, that might well be the case. That's not to say there isn't an issue there already, but it probably isn't to do with the system being overloaded. It's probably down to other things about the water pressure which aren't necessarily related to how much load is put on there. And as I said, I'm not an expert. You might know a lot more about water engineering than I do, but on the face of it, I'm struggling a little bit with this one.
I just think that Thames Water are not always that credible, because they don't want to spend any more money putting in extra infrastructure. They'd rather say, no, it's fine, it'll be okay. On most days, probably that's true. But, you know, when everybody's at home on a bank holiday and having showers and barbecuing outside, everybody at home flushing their toilets, there may not be enough water.
Are there any further questions for the councillor? Oh,
Just seeing the picture behind you.
Yeah.
it's been put up. Yeah.
That is how the collisions happen. You can see there a bus and a motorcycle. The transit van sticking out into the carriageway. So anybody coming round that corner where the bus is will just may glance away and see that transit van at the last moment, swerve to avoid it, and go into the wall at the other side, which was the photos we had last time from Julie.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you.
Can I just point out that on the map of collisions on page, if you look, this is where the entrance is, and there's a whole hot spot of accidents there. No fatalities as yet, but you never know what's going to happen.
Councillor, do you not feel encouraged by the various traffic calming that they're going to bring in with the 20 mile an hour, the double yellow lines, things like that? You don't feel?
Well, people do fly around that corner when it's not completely blocked. I think that the widening of the footway may work, but it may also cause more accidents as they bunch together because they've got to go into one lane. I'm not a traffic expert.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, would councillors like to make a, yes?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose it would be helpful for us to talk briefly about the road traffic improvements, and then I think it would be helpy to talk about the water-related stuff. There might be other issues as well, but I wonder whether we should kind of try and bottom those out. On the road traffic issues, when we sat here in December, we said we had some assurances, but the big question mark for us was that we didn't have information from Lewisham. We have now got that. Lewisham haven't raised any substantial issues. They've offered some suggestions to us, and we are taking on board all of those suggestions with the exception of one, but we're taking on an equivalent. So it feels like on road safety or the road issue, there isn't we've done what we couldn't do in December. So I certainly feel assured on that. And the point was well made by the developer that actually this is going to be a car-free development. It is student housing. If anything, traffic is going to be reduced through the use that's been suggested. So I just thought it might be helpful for me to say, on road traffic, I kind of feel relatively assured. I'm happy to have a further conversation about the pavement width, but I take the point that we are doing the roundels and the yellow lines instead.
Thank you. Any other comments colleagues would like to make? Yes?
I'm going to try and summarise where I am, Chair. I think there's a number of different factors in this to consider. I think there's some arguments which are positive for this, some which are negative, and I think some that we've thoroughly explored to see whether they are or not, and may be able to not, or I think are important but probably aren't sufficient to be considered as grounds for refusal. I think in that last category, I think we have had a clear answer from road safety following our approach to Lewisham. I think whilst there may well be people who don't like the answers, what we have got is we have got that input from experts which have told us what their view is and how they think these issues can be ameliorated. I do look at that map and I am concerned about the number of collisions there are, but again, that's possibly something that we need to take away for our highways team and working with Lewisham to find some answers to, and I'm not sure, given the response we've had for Lewisham, it's grounds for refusal, given the evidence that we have. The issue about flood risk, I thought the applicant had a good response on that, which seemed fair, and as I think I said last time, I've previously been a member of the Thames Flood and Coastal Flood Committee, so I kind of know some of those things. Yeah, I've been around a lot, Chair, I know. Similarly on water pressure, again, I don't think we've got the evidence in front of us to make that be grounds for refusal. I note the points that were made about consultation, but I do think, the fact that we have had another round of consultation, I think if there has been, if there were significant new concerns to come out, then either through that or through word of mouth, through everybody discussing their neighbours, I'm sure we have heard any new issues we haven't considered already. And I note what the objector said in terms of the paperwork, but these slides are never given out before the meeting. The information they contain is in the public domain because it's in the main report and it's also in the addendum report that was issued today. So I recognise what the objector was saying. It'd be nice to see some of these presented in this way beforehand, but it's not unusual for that to happen. I do think it's possibly something about construction management plan which ought to be considered, particularly some of those issues about traffic flow, because I think we recognise there will be a bigger traffic flow during that, and that might be something that needs to be looked at as part of conditions. Overall, what this application does bring is money for affordable housing, in particular social housing. That in lieu payment will be useful in providing much needed homes that we know people need. And it does contribute towards, I know it's a controversial subject, but it does contribute towards the student number targets that we have as a borough to fulfil. I know that people don't always like student developments. I know that definitely in my own ward, where of the 10,000 that we've been told as the borough to deliver, a third of those are in my ward, so I hear all the time about some of those concerns. But this does not feel to me a disproportionate amount for the area in terms of the impact of the area, albeit I recognise it is very concentrated. I think for me the concerns about it still are about the height, the impact on daylight and sunlight that we heard from the objector, albeit I think the point that the applicant made that actually this is not dissimilar to something that already had in effect been given approval means that it's very difficult to use that for grounds for refusal. And I think the other thing is I would definitely have preferred the affordable housing to be on site. rather than being off-site and a payment in lieu. But I don't think, for me, either of those concerns I still have are sufficient grounds to sustain an objection, and therefore I'll be voting in favour of the application.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, please.
Thanks, Chair. And yeah, I'd probably just echo the comment, the very eloquent comments of Councillor Livingston and Councillor Mills. And I think that the three substantive points that we reconvened this meeting to discuss have been pretty substantively addressed. I would just be potentially just interested to know. Maybe I don't know if we were able to kind of get the details of. I know there was 267 additional letters sent out to neighbourhoods. If we are able to know kind of in a bit more detail where those are, I assume they're on Bush Road, Low Road, and like the housing estate on the other side of Bush Road. But if we have that kind of information, just so we can know directly where it was covered.
It's a radius of 100 meters from the site, right round.
Okay, no, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Sure.
but yeah, I feel reassured that that was a really worthwhile endeavour to try and drum up any kind of additional response from residents, given that it already gone to planning committee at the end of last year, and so should have been a peak of interest for concerned residents nearby. But beyond that, I would just probably echo the sentiments of my colleagues on the committee, and yeah, I don't really have anything further to add.
Councillor Mills.
Yeah, very quickly. I think, I don't know if we do this presumably before we vote. Sorry, I don't sit on planning very often. It would be good to have confirmation of the kind of additional conditions that have come out of particularly the traffic consultation with Lewisham, and also what you suggest in terms of the kind of construction management plan. Do we need to do anything additional around that? So I think I would welcome confirmation like that, but like Councillor Parton and Councillor Livingston, I am, minded to vote in favour.
So the motion that would be voted on would be in accordance with the recommendation in the main report and the addendum report, which would include all the conditions, the 106 obligations, the highway works recommended within those reports. Construction management plan from back on the 8th of December 2025, a construction environmental management plan was one of the suggested conditions, so that would be included in the conditions. The only other condition that Andre mentioned amending was condition 20 in his presentation, where he mentioned that could be slightly amended for the power assisted gate. So the motion would say amended condition 20 as well. Yeah.
Can we have some sort of condition about consultation on the construction management plan? Or we certainly have done that on applications before, that either the construction management plan comes back to this committee when it's finalised, or that we ask for some additional consultation or at some stage in the construction management plan to ensure the local community are involved in that.
Yes, so the condition at the moment doesn't include consultation. It could be amended to say that the CEMP, the Construction Environmental Management Plan, before it is submitted for approval to the local authority, the applicant shall consult with local residents as to the contents.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I would just echo that point, because I think just given the density of the area and housing on that site, I think that would be really valuable to get the involvement of local residents.
Thank you. Any other questions for anybody, or we'll
just to help us, because this is treated, the report we've got in front of us is treated as an addendum report. Could you put on the screen clearly what the full recommendation is, and could you blow that up a little bit so those of us with aging eyes can see it properly?
I don't know, Councillor Livingston, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you want to go through each condition or just see the recommendation?
I want to, sorry, I need to clarify that. Yeah, I'd like to see the recommendation we've been asked to vote on.
So that would
the
be...
wording of it. I don't need to necessarily go through it all, but
Yeah,
I think...
so that would be actually at the beginning of the report. It's the recommendation is that planning permission be granted subject to conditions and the applicant entering into an appropriate legal agreement. If those requirements are not met by the 8th of June 2026, then the Director of Planning and Growth be authorised to refuse planning permission. And those conditions would include the conditions in the main report, the amended CEMP condition, and also amended condition 20.
And the section 278 in the...
Happy? Okay. I'd like to move that we adopt the officer's recommendations as set out in paragraph 1 of the report on page 13 of the main agenda pack. Any amendments to the conditions also during the hearing. Recommendation that members note and consider the additional information in respect of this item in reaching a decision. Does any member of the committee wish to second this? Thank you, Councillor. Before the committee proceeds to vote, any member of the committee can propose an amendment. You've just done that. Can I have a vote of all those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much.
Chair, just while people are rearranging themselves, this is just to confirm. So I was here in December as a reserve for Councillor Soanes. As Councillor Soanes is here this evening, I am going to leave the meeting now. I feel like my duty as a reserve is done. I'm hoping that's okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mills. You are allowed to leave.
Okay, welcome back, colleagues and members of the public. We will now hear and get a presentation on agenda item 6.2, 26 Leather Market Street, London, Southwark, SE1 3HN. I would just like to confirm that we've now been joined by Councillor Sabina Emmanuel. So thank you, welcome Sabina. Can we just confirm that you're a voting member? If you'd like to raise your hand. Thank you. And I'd like to now ask Andre to present the report, please.
That's as big as the presentation is going to be on the screen. Thank you. This is an application for the demolition of an existing office building and the construction of a new Part 5, Part 6 mixed-use building, which would have replacement offices on the ground floor and 26 homes above. And those would be 100% affordable social rent. I'm going the wrong way, excuse me. This is the site location plan. You can see in black, the site is next to Lever Market Gardens, a park along Lever Market Street. This is an aerial view of the site, and we are looking at the two-story building where my cursor is. This is just to give context of the area. This is a photo along Western Street showing an arch alleyway through the building leading to the back of that building. And this is a photograph of the site shown with the blue arrow. And I just want to talk about the benefits of the proposal. It would be 100% social rent units, and it would be addressing the local need, of which 30% of tenants are in need and 57% are in overcrowded accommodation. Sorry, I keep on going back to the other slides. This is just a elaboration on the benefits, pointing out that 26 council homes would go towards meeting a housing need of 20,000 plus householders on the register, and it would replace an outdated office building which is used by the applicant for the Tenants Association. And there is an agreed parkland swap where there would be a benefit of uplift of 8.4 square meters of land within the park. And the new building would meet current sustainability standards, being a better performance in terms of sustainability. And there would be a facility in the replacement office building for continued services for the 1,500 plus households within the Tenant Management Association, and environmental benefits relating to urban greening and ecological gains. We received 140 comments of support and 84 comments of objection, and this slide points out the main concerns raised by objectors relating to design, amenity impacts, specifically daylight and overshadowing as well, fire safety, and then environmental issues relating to biodiversity. Land use issues were pointed out relating specifically to borough open land, and then also associated with that point, areas which are managed by the parks management team of the council. Security and design as well, and then linked to design concerns, the preservation of public artwork, which is on the west elevation of number 22 Lever Market Street. In terms of borough open land, objectors raised the issue that the site would lead to a loss of borough open land, but as you can see on the slide, the green depicts borough open land and the site is not on borough open land. There is a departure of policy with a loss of floor space of 222 square meters, but given the specifics of the applicant serving a defined group of residents, tenants within their control, that would actually be an efficient use of space. There's no additional space needed, so the new office would be a better use of the space, and you would not lose any employment. At the moment, there's 28 employees, and that would continue to be the case for the new development as well. Turning to details of the proposed development, it would comply with the policy in terms of dwelling mix. As you can see on the slide, a combination of 1, 2 and 3 bed units, and it would also provide policy compliant accessible housing with a total of 3 units, and the quality of accommodation would exceed the minimum standards, as you can see on the right hand side in that table, providing quality of accommodation. The following slides refer to historic maps, which is just as for background, which might be useful if there's any questions on these historic significance and design elements of the scheme. So you can see this 1907, 1947, photo from around about 1950 showing number 22 Lever Market, where my cursor is. You can see, I want to point out that those are currently there are metal doors on that elevation, but that photo shows that in 1950 there were bricks. This is a map of 1951, 1958, 1970, and this is a photo from the council's conservation appraisal from 2003, again pointing out specifically on the west elevation of number 22 the bricks where currently there are metal cladding, and this is a current 2D aerial photo showing the site and in its current position, and then the front elevation in the plan below. This is the proposed building, front elevation, fronting onto Lever Market Street, and this is the rear elevation. You can see on the left there's an undercroft leading through to the park, and this is a typical floor plan. So I want to point out on the right hand side, you can see where my cursor is, that's number 22 Lever Market Street. There's a 0.4 meter gap between the new building and the west flank of 22, and you can see that the building at that point is 9.4 meters deep. So the undercroft would be 9.4 meters, a space where you move through towards the park, 8.85 meters wide and 3.08 meters in height. This is a map of the conservation area. My cursor shows where the current site is. And this is an extract from the conservation area. Again, if needed, we can refer to these slides if there's any specific design questions. further extract from the area appraisal as well. And this is a slide showing the final design on the right-hand side, showing where the design started on the left. I had pre-application discussions approximately 3 years ago, and this is more detail of the design evolution, again ending in August 2023 with the final design. And this is a slide showing the existing site on the left. On the right-hand side, you can see the proposed scheme infilling the gap in the street. This is a photo montage of the front elevation on the side of 22 Levermarket Street. Again, design. This is a slide showing the view from the park. This is the rear elevation, and the applicants did look at concerns raised by objectors regarding the height of the building. Where my cursor is, that is a listed building, but even if you drop the building by 1 story, you would still obscure that view of the listed building to the south. Objectors raised concerns about the new building obscuring artwork on the west elevation of number 22 Levermarket Street, and this is the condition which was associated with the 2003 permission at Levermarket Street when that building was extended and converted into residential and office accommodation. This is a photo showing the artwork which is illuminated on the left, on that side of the building, and you can see there's also 4 openings, black doors, and those will all be obscured by the new building, apart from the 3 doors on the ground floor due to the proposed undercroft. The applicant did approach the owners of number 22 Levermarket Street to move the artwork to some location on their building, but the owners of 22 weren't open for that to happen. The applicant then looked at options of replacing the artwork in a similar type of artwork, and this is a possible location, and we've drafted a condition for consideration if members thought that was an acceptable option. The applicant actually initially started with suggesting that an alternative artwork could be placed on the ground floor or the surface of the undercroft, as you can see on the lower slide where my cursor is. So that is also an option. The artwork will ultimately be looking at the wording of Condition 8. So Condition 8 requires the applicant of number 22 Levermarket Street to comply with that condition, and part of that is that artwork should be retained and maintained. So as the application stands, the artwork will remain. There will be a 0.4 meter gap between the new building and the artwork. And in terms of maintenance, officers acknowledged that maintenance wouldn't be possible by human maintenance. I don't know if you could have a machine go in, but 0.4 meters is not wide enough to maintain it. So we just want to say that we acknowledge that. But in terms of the protection of Condition 8, the artwork will remain. But then ultimately, there is still an option from the applicant if the owners of 22 are willing to move that artwork to somewhere on the site. The proposed landscaping on the ground floor is shown on this slide, so I'll move on to the details of the significance of the landscaping, in that there would be a part of a site of importance for nature conservation within Leather Market Gardens will be lost. But there is a land swap which was agreed by the Parks Department, which is shown in yellow on this slide here. And it's this, on the left, it's the blue area, which is part of the play area, and that will be swapped around. So there's a net gain of 8 square meters in terms of parkland, and then the associated ecological benefits from that. It's just more details of the area that would be lost. That this area in blue would be part of the application site. Crime was also raised as an issue specifically around the undercroft and then the upper floor terraces of the proposed building. The applicant engaged with the Metropolitan Police throughout the process, I think up to 4 occasions, and this is the final scheme where the Metropolitan Police suggested changes which were, as far as I know, all were incorporated in this design, and we are recommending permission subject to secure by design conditions. And the applicant is highly likely to receive a gold standard of secure by design. So this is the issues raised by objectors relating to the upper floor, where there were concerns that people could enter the building and then access the communal garden and then also the private terraces to the front elevation. But officers are in agreement that those issues will all be secured or prevented by secure by design conditions. Fire safety, again, primarily associated with the undercroft, were raised and thoroughly assessed and addressed by the applicant. And we consulted the health and safety executive, and the applicant submitted several documents to address this point. Firstly, the scheme had an additional story which was removed, as you can see on this slide. So there was a 1.4 meter gap between the side elevation of the new building and the side elevation of number 22 Leather Market Garden Street, which I think is flat 14 shown here. That gap was increased to 3.8 meters by setting back the top floor. The objectors also raised concerns regarding the EWS1 fire safety certificate, but that relates solely to the number 22 Leather Market Gardens and would not be affected by the new development. This is just more detail of further modelling submitted by the applicant in case of fire. So it shows the graph to the bottom with the red and green shows how that fire smoke would disperse on both sides of the undercroft, and there wouldn't be any smoke lower than 2.8 meters above the ground. Fire safety concerns were also raised by objectors during the construction period, but the applicant assured us that there is procedures in place to ensure that there are escape routes during construction as well. As you can see on the slide, there's an example elsewhere in the city of how this is set in place. This is the lower ground floor, the ground floor of number 22 Leather Market. You can see this is a maintenance cupboard, and this is a fire escape door, and this is the blank facade of which is referred to as a loading bay door by objectors. In terms of amenity, we looked at overlooking concerns specifically to the closest property, number 22, and the applicant addressed those in terms of obscured glazing on the top floor, and the separation distance is what one would expect and which is acceptable in an urban environment like this. And no issues raised by officers and no need for specific conditions to cover those issues. You can see there's the window on the side elevation which would be obscured glazed. That is a secondary window to a living room, so the main facade would open to the south. This shows the window, and you can see there's a terrace to the south which lights the living dining area room. Daylight was also raised as a concern by neighbouring properties, and specifically there were issues about the use of number 15 Leather Market Street, as you can see on the slide. The top floor, which is with the applicant later on assessed as residential, and there are indeed impacts. Now, in terms of impacts on daylight, this is a table from the BRE guidance. You can see the various reductions, minor adverse, moderate adverse, major adverse leading up to a 40% reduction in daylight, where the guidance says that up to 20% would be noticeable, and then going to the major adverse effect at 40% reduction. So 15 Leather Market Street, those windows shown on the photo shows major, moderate impacts on several windows, but this is primarily due to the central London location and the narrow inner London street in this case. So it is expected, so on balance, officers acknowledge that there would be an impact, but the harm would be outweighed by the benefits of the scheme. But furthermore, once you do a daylight sunlight test, the vertical sky component is the first step, and the second test is a no skyline test. So in that case, the reduction is only 0.76, which is marginally below the 0.8 as within the guidelines. Overshadowing, this is primarily to the play area and then the wider Leather Market Gardens. Currently, the play area receives 78% of sunlight, and that would reduce to 55%. The applicant also looked at suggestions from objectors that the scheme should be reduced by 1 story, but that would only reduce the impact to 58%. But 55% as it stands exceeds the requirement of 50% of sunlight on the 21st of March. There is 3 existing car parking permits on street, right in front of the existing building. The proposal is to retain one of those spaces and replace 2 spaces with a loading bay, which is required for the scheme. You can see on this slide, servicing and deliveries would be a total of 10 trips, daily trips. So that bay would accommodate that requirement. There were issues around the delivery vehicles and the curb upstand, which is 25 millimeters. The applicant looked at that as well. Just want to, and that is adequate. I think my addendum has something around how that is acceptable. A parking survey was done very recently, since the previous parking survey was done in 2021, and the slide shows that there is space within the surrounding streets to accommodate the loss of those 2 car parking permits. In terms of flood risk, there's a comprehensive flood risk assessment which covers the sequential test and exception test. And just to point out, in terms of the sequential test, in this case, the council agreed to this area, which is within the control of the applicant, and those relate to 3 wards. And officers are in agreement that there's no flood risk issues with the site. The addendum reports includes clarification regarding the highway works, the provision of 1 off-street disabled car parking bay and a 25 millimeter curb upstand will be part of the section 278, and it is now recommended to remove the reference to the relocation of displayed on-street parking bays, as there's no requirement for that. And the officers also recommend that the section 106 include a method statement covering the protection and repair of any damage of the artwork during construction. And just to clarify, the carbon offset payment of £19,950 and a bond for play equipment, which would be removed during construction. So it's just to cover the replacement of the play equipment in the park. Finally, just to reiterate the benefits of the scheme, 26 council homes would be provided 100% affordable, which would go towards meeting the shortfall of 20,000 plus households on the housing need register. It would provide a modern, updated office building that would be fit for purpose today, and there would be a net gain of parkland of 8.4 square meters with biodiversity gains associated with that. In terms of design, it would be a sustainable design, and it would, in terms of heritage impact, it would contribute to the conservation area and fill in a gap in the street scene. It would provide community facilities with the office associated with the office building, and would contribute to urban greening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Andre. Have you said everything that you wanted to say about the addendum? And any further comments?
No, I can answer questions if there's questions on the addendum.
No, you haven't said everything, or you're happy that
I'm happy.
Right, all right, okay. Just for committee members to bear that in mind if there's anything that, any matters arise from the addendum. Thank you, Andre. Andre, can we just go back to slide 22? I was somewhat confused at that table in terms of the dwelling mix? Because is there some double counting going on? Because I got a bit confused by the figures, the far left. So you've got studio, 1 bed, 2 bed, 2 bed plus 3 bed, and then percentage of units. So you've got 2 bed at 46%, 2 bed plus 77%, but then you've got 3 beds plus at 23%. So is that, have you counted those? Have you counted 2 bed and 2 bed plus twice? I don't understand that. And then you've got the 3 bed. I didn't quite understand that, the breakdown of that. And then obviously in the far right, then you've got the policy compliant percentages. So can you just explain that table to me, please? Because why haven't we specifically got the number of bedrooms at this proposal? And it would have been much clearer and far more transparent. But having the 2 bed plus, 3 bed plus, because 2 bed plus implies, right, 3 beds, and then you've got 3 bed plus. So that looks like double counting to me. So
yes, just to explain, so the policy doesn't require beds as such, persons. 2 bed could be a 3-person, 4-person flat. So in terms of policy, I'm just trying to say that, so the policy requirement is 60% for 2 bed plus. So it's just the way that you count the units.
Sorry, I think if you, essentially, there's 26 units of total. 8 out of 26, the 1 bed is 31%. 12 out of 26 is 46%. I think there's actually a slight error. I've just done the maths. 12 plus 6, so the 2 bed and the 3 bed, which is the 2 bed plus, is 18. And 18 out of 26 is actually 69%, but it still exceeds the policy minimum. And then 3 bed plus, there's 6 on its own, which is 23%, which exceeds the 20% minimum. So yes, the table could perhaps be clearer, but and the 77% should be 69%.
correct.
But it does.
Because I was doing that very quickly in my head. And
Yeah.
I failed to show that it is policy compliant, but I assure you it is policy compliant.
please, for clarity and transparency. Do we have questions? Thank you. Councillor Livingston.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple of quick questions. So the first one was just to really understand what's happening to the play area at the rear of the site, because we know that the proposed building is, you know, its northern wall is moving northwards. I understand the point that's made about borough open space, but obviously there is a play area there which is outside of the borough open space. So just really to understand whether this is impacting on the play area and whether it's still a usable play area after this building is built.
The part of the play area will be shut during construction.
No, I appreciate that, but just to understand, you know, you've got I think it's a football pitch there or a basketball.
No, there's
ground.
play equipment.
Is it play equipment? Oh, okay. So it's still going to be usable for its current purposes once the work is complete.
That's right. It will be reinstated. Okay. Hence the bond in the section 106.
Thank you. Second question was, given that Richard's here, need to ensure he has something to do, is a conservation-related question. It's about building 22 Leather Market Street. So I understand we've sort of had a lot of detail about the artwork, but one of the other things that the new building would obscure is those four historic, those four doorways that were there, which I think are currently sort of got steel coverings there at the moment, just to understand the conservation view about those being obscured by the new development, given this is a conservation area, and that appears to be as if it's related to the industrial heritage of that building.
Well, thank you, Andre. Andre's running back through the maps for me. This illustration here, what I've done is picked out number 22 in its current form, which is the blue rectangle on the right, and number 26, which is the rectangle on the left. And as you see, if you can just make out below, the actual original warehouse building extended all the way across to finish underneath number 26. So if we scroll forward, what happens is there's the warehouse building in its full glory, and then there was an office building which is part of the tannery which runs behind. So the warehouse was used in connection with the tannery. So if you scroll through again, please, Andre, World War II bomb damage, and if you look very, very carefully, you can see just the street facade of number, get my numbers right, number 22 just surviving. That then gets cleared away by the LCC in terms of setting out the park. And what happens is to number 22 is what was an internal wall becomes an external wall.
So it wasn't an original feature, it's a feature.
Well, it's an original feature.
But it wasn't external originally.
But it's an internal wall that's been made external. And so what then happens is they brick in the side, which is what we see in this photo, which is from 1950, about 54, as the park is being laid out. They secure those doors with those openings, those internal openings with brickwork. And at some point later on, I think in about 2000, they install steel covers to the front of those openings. So they are original openings, but they were all about the internal workings. That's not to say they aren't of interest and they don't contribute, because I think they do. They're part of how the conservation area, how it evolved. So there is a degree of interest there, but I wouldn't say it goes to the heart of the conservation area, which is all really about the warehouse buildings, the alleyways that they create, and, you know, the narrow streets and the warehouse architecture. So there is an impact, but I would put it at very low level. I would put it low level, slightly higher than low level I'd give for the artwork as well, because again, that's about how that provides visual interest. It's part of the history of an area in terms of someone thought it's, well, the councillors thought it was a good idea at the time to encourage artwork. That comes along. But in the scheme of things, we have to balance the impact of that loss with what happens both in terms of the contribution to housing, but for me, in conservation, we restate or reinstate the built form. So the new building effectively is designed a bit like a warehouse, and it effectively completes the street scene, which was lost during the war. So for me, there is a positivity to the scheme which addresses that harm. So I'm comfortable. I know you probably didn't want me to go that far, but in terms of my explanation, but I'm comfortable with the outcome of the scheme.
No, that's actually very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Emmanuel?
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about the disabled parking. The disabled parking that's next to the loading only that you have on here, services and deliveries, are these going? Or they're staying?
Let me just go to a slide, but there aren't disabled bays, it's parking permit bays.
They're parking permit
Just
bays?
parking permit bays.
Okay, so where are the disabled bays?
Not in close proximity to the
So
site.
if somebody has a difficulty in walking, or they have that breathing thing?
At the moment, there's no disabled bays from memory. 50, 100 meters away. So the proposal will actually introduce one disabled bay on site.
One.
Yes, which is policy compliant for the development.
I don't think that's enough.
And there's one off-street in the 106.
Apologies.
It's one off street.
So what's proposed is one on-site, and then also the highway works would secure one more off-site as well. So there'd be two in total.
Councillor Parton?
Sorry. The one on street couldn't be protected in terms of it's not dedicated to the development. And so therefore it's available to anyone with a blue badge. Whereas the one off street is dedicated to the development. So 2 spaces, one which is guaranteed, the other one depends on a first come, first served basis for those people with the blue badge.
Can you put your microphone, Councillor?
So, well, basically, the ones for the disabled people are off street, and the ones for the blue badges are in the scheme itself. Is that what you're saying?
Other way around.
The other way around?
Sorry, Chair, if I can just refer Councillor Manyo to paragraph 256 of your of the official report on page 79. 79 at the bottom and 100 at the top. It clearly outlines what the arrangement is in terms of car parking.
Right. No. I was basically thinking of people who are not able to walk very far and people who have medical conditions whereby they have to carry their oxygen with them. It would be better for them to go into the market to have a secure parking space rather than having to look for one and come in first come, first serve. It would make more sense.
Perhaps you could put that to the applicant. Any further Councillor Parton?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Andre. I just had a few quick questions that hopefully you can kind of help me out on. And because I'm not sure they were immediately covered, but hopefully they will be pretty easy to answer. I think the first one was if you're able to confirm that every residential building will have access to a balcony. It looks like they will, but just wanted to confirm that. Also just wanted to kind of quickly check what the use of number 22 Lever Market is. I think it might be residential, but just wanted to confirm that. And then I think it would also be quite helpful just to understand, because obviously you talked about some of the privacy concerns, and the kind of graphics showed that there weren't many windows that were looking directly into that, but perhaps this is a question for the applicant, but I'd be keen to know if there are any kind of design features that were specifically incorporated to deal with privacy concerns.
In terms of balconies, yes, the application would have outdoor amenity space. There is, in total, in terms of the total square meterage, it's slightly below what's required, so there would be a payment in lieu for the shortfall. Number 22, as far as I know, the basement is in office use, and I'm not sure if the first or ground or first part of that is also an office and or residential, and the rest is residential. In terms of privacy, you have balconies on the closer to the park, further away from number 22, so you'll have oblique overlooking. But as I said, the separation distance would be what you would expect in this urban environment, and you would only have oblique views.
Thank you. And sorry, one additional question was, you mentioned an undercroft. Can you kind of explain a little bit more about what you mean by an undercroft? Who will have access to it, and what will it contain?
I think it's best if I can go to the slide that shows the undercroft. I think it's around about fire safety, shows a lot of the undercroft. On slide 45, as you can see there on the screen, so that's this area where you have the disabled car parking bay, that's the undercroft, which will, at the moment there's a gap between the site and number 22 with a path leading to the park, so that path would remain open as well.
Okay, so just to confirm, like, members of the public will be able to walk through that unimpeded, and also that effectively the cars, whilst the parking bay is on site, it's still effectively open to the public.
That's right. So almost 9 meters wide, the undercroft, but part of that would be, half of that roughly would be the disabled bay, and that would be open to the public. The gates aren't locked at night, so it would be exactly as it is at the moment.
Thank you. It's basically just a path to walk through. Thank you.
Could I just add something, just to help you? In terms of the width and the length of it, it's basically this opening here to the cupboards would be the width of that undercroft as well as the length of it. And floor to ceiling height here is 2.4, and the proposal is for 3 meters to the undercroft. So to allow you to visualize it, it's higher than the current ceiling by another half or 600, but it's that width from the windows to the cupboard is the size of that undercroft and the length of it.
Yeah. So, Andre, slide 50.
Just to be clear, on that slide, you can see that there's lights in the roof, which is obviously beneficial in terms of safety as well.
Just keeping on that slide, in your presentation, Andre, you said that the applicant would hope to achieve gold standard. Why is it an aspiration and not a definitive, please? And given that the implication is that's an objective to work towards, is that something that we could actually condition and say it has to be gold standard? Because why would I would suggest that we wouldn't want anything less than, if less than gold standard. That's on this, and then I've got a couple of other questions before we move on, please. But just since we're on that start, I just remembered in your presentation you said in terms of mitigating the security concerns that objectors have raised.
We normally don't require a gold. Our standard condition is purely just to achieve secure by design, but the gold was picked up following an objection, and the applicant looked at addressing the objection in full, and then looked at achieving gold. So that's why we are doing something slightly different in terms of mentioning the gold. That's perhaps something which you can ask the applicant. I'm not, as I say, we don't normally condition it to be a gold standard. Michael, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that?
It's the condition would require secured by design certification. It doesn't specify gold certification, which I think it would depend.
But there's obviously a standard to which applicants or designers can achieve. So why can't we just stipulate that then?
It depends.
Since it's been mentioned, shouldn't have been mentioned.
So,
And who sets these standards, by the way?
It's set by, it's a UK police standard that is obviously, upon completion, there is an accreditation process to achieve that, standard of excellence in terms of design. But what we are looking at here, it's a well-designed scheme that has been developed secured by design colleagues.
But if the police have said that there is a gold standard, so why would we not wish to adhere to that?
So I think the operative word is it's likely to achieve that accreditation. I think we might just need to check what the process is in terms of actually obtaining that accreditation. But what you're looking at, what members are looking at here, is a well-designed scheme that is probably likely to achieve that gold accreditation.
See, that's where you muddy the things up, because, you're likely to achieve, then that doesn't give me the full satisfaction that it would be achieved, because we're here at the meeting that we could actually set that specific standard. If there is a standard by which it could be achieved, then surely we should make every attempt, and as a local authority make every attempt to achieve it, given that it's such a concern for local residents, I would argue.
I think it's something to ask the applicants about, because I'm not sure how they can meet the Secure by Design certification. I don't know how confident they are that they could meet the gold standard, and usually you would only impose a condition if you knew it could be complied with.
But the police were consulted, and they've actually okay. Okay, thank you. So that's where we should seek clarification of these things. Thames Water, Andre, page 106, top power 292, so top number rather than bottom number. Can you say a little bit, so there are issues about the infrastructure. Could you say a little bit about that? What does it all mean? And they would be seeking clarification. There isn't the infrastructure there at the moment. To deliver adequate water. Is that correct? Sounds as if there would be a lot of preparation.
I think in a sense it's their standard response to applications, and then paragraph 289 is an informative which is definitely a standard response to applications, and I think the important thing is the condition that they recommend, the piling method statement, which we are recommending. But this is no specific, it's a standard comment that they have, but there's no issues around future.
Well, I don't know. It says Thames Water has identified an inability of the existing water network infrastructure to accommodate the needs of this development proposal. As such, Thames Water requests that the following condition be added to any planning permission, and then...
Well, that condition would address any concern. So when the applicant discharges that condition, we consult Thames Water.
No, I was just going to say the Thames Water response is that they would request that the condition be added to any planning permission, and that's what officers have recommended. The condition ensures that the development couldn't be occupied beyond the 20th dwelling until certain measures had been met, and Thames Water would be consulted on that condition to ensure that the measures are met.
don't know if it's relevant, but I'll ask it anyway. So if, say for example, if anything happens, if there's groundwater going into the sewage, and there's an overspill and there's a, God forbid, something went wrong, whose responsibility is it? Is it the council that have to clear it up, or is it Thames Water that have to clear it up? Worst case scenario.
I think for the application, the officer report states that those issues surrounding groundwater, water network, sewage are acceptable subject to conditions. And so in planning policy terms, that's the recommendation before you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions from anyone? Okay, then, moving on. Thank you, colleagues. Do we have any objectors? I've got listed Olivia Davis and Aaron Foy. Okay, if you'd like to come forward. Are you Olivia? I am, yes. All righty, Olivia. So, in my opening remarks, you would have heard you've got up to 3 minutes. 3 minutes start once you've officially introduced yourself. And I'll give you 30 seconds warning.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Olivia Davis, and I'm speaking on behalf of the residents of number 22 Leather Market Street. The committee's not here to ask itself whether 26 social housing units are desirable. Clearly they are. What you're asking yourselves is whether this design complies with the development plan. You're applying a flat, not tilted balance. This is not a tilted balance case where everything comes out in the wash because of the number of homes being provided. This scheme breaches a number of development plan policies which are so important that they mean the development plan overall is breached. These breaches all stem from the insistence on using the entire plot right up to the red line boundary and to the wall of number 22 for built development. The insistence on an extra 3 units above the footpath causes the following 4 harms to amenity. First, the creation of an underpass, and that's what it is, not an undercroft, an underpass. The idea that the replacement of a 4-metre wide open pathway with clear lines of sight with this underpass is going to improve security is farcical. A group of drug addicts move around SE1, sheltering wherever they can get out of the rain. Just ask the residents of the Tabard Garden estate who aren't lucky enough to have doors stopping public access to their stairwells. As soon as this underpass is built, it will be added to the rotation of places where those people either go to do crack cocaine or wait for crack cocaine. The idea that a bike rack, CCTV or some lights is going to prevent this is naive. Just ask the poor manager of the Sainsbury's local on Weston Street if lights or CCTV stop ASB as they watch this same group of local addicts walk, not run, walk out of their shop every day with armfuls of stolen food. In the last month, at this precise location, there's been a stabbing and also a mugging of a child who lives in our building. The people that do these things are not deterred by lights or CCTV. The proposal to create an underpass is clearly contrary to the SPD's requirement that development should seek to improve community safety and crime prevention. We welcome the Chair's suggestion at the very least of gold standard secured by design being conditioned. Unless it's conditioned to that standard, it's meaningless because it's not enforceable, and everyone on this committee knows that. I'm not even going to get into the cultural vandalism of covering up the artwork because that's our freeholders' fight to have. Secondly, daylight and sunlight. This proposal fails the BRE guidance in terms of VSC score and daylight distribution. There are moderate to major adverse impacts to 8 of number 15's windows, not several, 8. Yet we're told there's no significant impact.
30 seconds.
If multiple adverse impacts don't add up to a significant impact, what does? Third, overlooking insecurity of residents. There's still 1 bedroom window looking directly into number 14, and we say that's still contrary to the SPD policy. Similarly, the proposed rooftop plan suggests that a 1-metre balustrade will prevent someone walking from one building to another. Again, that's painfully naive. Finally, fire risk. The separation distance is 3.8 metres at the closest point. There's been no site-specific analysis assessing inter-building risk. Members cannot be confident that they're not about to approve something which is irretrievably dangerous.
Time's up. I allowed you to just go because I think I anticipated you were coming to an end. So. Do members have any questions to ask Ms Foy?
Davies.
Davies, oh, I'm so sorry. Is Foy, oh, that was, sorry. Miss Davies, please accept my apology. None whatsoever. Councillor Parton.
I thank you so much for coming to present to the committee. I'd be very keen to kind of, if you're able to elaborate on the kind of antisocial behaviour situation that you've described. You kind of went into a bit of detail, but if you can share any more about the kind of lived experience on the street, that would be very helpful.
I mean, I don't think it's news to anyone that, like all London boroughs, Southwark has a problem with drug addicts roaming around, and there is the same group of local drug addicts that move around our postcode from estate to estate, and they seek out shelter wherever they can. On the Tabar Garden estate, they're always in the stairwells. They will go anywhere where they can get undercover. If you build an underpass, they're going to sit in it because this is where they live. This is their turf. They spend their days robbing from Sainsbury's, finding places to hang out. The idea that's not going to happen is fanciful. And as to the crime, the violent crime, we've had, how old's Elliot, Rachel? Just 16. 16. Our 16-year-old neighbour was mugged right outside our building. There was a stabbing. And for a phone. Where the entrance to the tunnel was going to be. I just don't see how piling opportunities for antisocial behaviour on top of what is already extreme antisocial behaviour is an improvement. It can't possibly be.
Okay. Richard, did you put your hand up as well?
I
No,
did,
I'm just
but I think...
just
yes,
making sure
yeah.
that you did. Yeah, so Councillor Emmanuel, followed by Councillor Livingston.
I know you live there, and so therefore you know the area very well. What measures do you think we can put in place so that the antisocial behaviour doesn't happen out there?
Well, we don't. We say that you should reject this proposal because you can't. And we've said all along, we wouldn't be sitting here today if what we've always said from the outset had been taken into account, which is don't build up to our wall and up to the red line, just stay on the other side of the footpath. That's the only solution, but we are where we are. At the very least, the Chair's suggestion is a sensible one of conditioning gold standards secured by design, but we say that's not good enough.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I'll pick up on your earlier comment after Richard has had an opportunity to ask. So, Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah, I know you're trying to get a lot of points in there, so thank you very much for coming along here and thank you for putting those forward. One of the things that you mentioned, but perhaps didn't have enough time to talk about, was about the issue of overlooking. So
Yes.
I just wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
So there is still a bedroom window looking directly into number 14 of number 22. And while the distance has improved from the first ludicrous suggestion of 3.6 metres, it's now 9 metres. In our view, that's still contrary to the SPD policy. And then the other point in that category was about the possibility of someone walking across from one building to the other, which we're told will be stopped by a 1.1 metre balustrade, which seems optimistic and too reliant on the goodness of human nature.
Miss Davis, how much consultation or how much discussion, probably is a better word, how much discussion did you have with the applicant in terms of your fears and, and issues that you've shared with us this evening, raised with them? I mean,
there's been loads in the sense that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. If you can just
we've been saying the same
sense of an
yeah,
idea.
we've been saying the same things for, 5 years that this application's been trundling along. And I think we started from the truly ludicrous proposal of a 10-storey building, which the applicant knew they were never going to get permission for. And then you have the great, oh, we've listened and we've changed to 5 stories, which they knew, you know, that was the only realistic option anyway. But in terms of the underpass, there's been no meaningful response from the applicant because they've never seriously considered anything other than the design that's behind you now. All along we've said, can you please just consider moving it across the footpath and getting rid of those units floating above? But they wouldn't, and it was like talking to a brick wall. And all along we've said, if you did that, we'd be having a very different conversation in terms of our ability to support this proposal. But for 5 years, nothing.
So basically, your request was for the current footprint to effectively remain the same without the underpass or undercroft, so that you would have that adequate space between
not even
the boundaries of the proposal and number 22.
Not even the current footprint. It would be fine for it to go up to the edge of the footpath, because you see there's quite a few metres there that it could expand. So where that's the disabled parking bay, I think that it's showing you on the left hand of the image. That would be fine. You know, we're reasonable people, but it was all falling on deaf ears, unfortunately.
And what's your view about the covering of the artwork?
I mean, it's cultural vandalism, plain and simple. That piece of artwork has been there for 20 years. Tourists come and look at it. It's got the historical association with Charles Dickens. It lights up at night. It's beautiful. People come and look at it, and they're going to put a brick wall in front of it. Mm-hmm. And they just shrug their shoulders.
And we got a sense from the officer's presentation of the involvement of your present building and the history element of it, and that it would appear that parts of it was bombed. It was bomb damage, and an interior wall is now an exterior wall, etc. In terms of your own building, what do you consider to be the cultural or historical merit?
Well, I think
because that's been sort of downplayed somewhat.
I think it's important to remember that heritage is evolving, and so yes, we can't argue that it's the case that that steel cladding wasn't put on those doors until they were bricked up in the 50s. But the contribution that our building makes to the heritage of the area is an iterative one, and it has become part of the fabric of our street. And those doors and that wall, fine, they weren't an external wall, but they were still part of the function that lends something to the heritage of the building as a warehouse building. And so I think this idea that, oh, well, because actually we're going to make it a continuous facade means that we're improving the contribution of the street scene to heritage is such a kind of 2D way of looking at it. And I find it very difficult to kind of really have a serious conversation about that, because it's so clear to me that the contribution that the western flank of our building makes to the heritage of the conservation area is so much greater than what's proposed here that I can't believe that anyone's seriously saying the opposite. It's beautiful, that western flank. It really is.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no further questions for Ms Davis, thank you very much indeed. Invite the applicants, please, to come forward. Just to remind you, you'll have up to 3 minutes, so I hope you've decided who's going to speak in advance, but we'll take introductions from all 5 of you, and then who will speak? Who's going to speak?
Hello, Chair. I'll be speaking on behalf of Leather Market CBS. I'm Liam McGrath.
Righto. What's your role, please?
I'm a director at the Community Benefit Society.
Right. So to your right.
Hi, Chair. My name is Brian Botha, and I'm project manager for CBS.
And then.
Good evening, everyone. Beverly Namafo, Programme Director for Leather Market CBS.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair. Thomas Smith from DMFK Architects.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair. It's Jonathan Ray, Daylight and Sunlight Consultant.
Thank you. Mr. Blacker, you may start the presentation. You'll get 30 seconds towards the end.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, everyone, for your time. I'm Liam McGrath. I'm a director, a volunteer, a local director at the Community Benefit Society, and our objective is to deliver social rent homes that are desperately needed. As we've heard, there are 20,000 people on the Southwark waiting list and thousands more in temporary accommodation. There are 70,000 children across London this evening in temporary accommodation, which is absolutely tragic. And as we've heard, on nearby estates, there's widespread overcrowding. We need new homes, as you all know. The scheme is considered acceptable against policy when assessed as a whole and is strongly supported in the planning balance. It's on a highly accessible brownfield site, and the design has been judged by officers to be appropriate in height, massing and heritage terms, as we've heard. It also delivers modern offices which are needed and has high environmental performance. It includes solar panels, heat pumps, green roofs and biodiversity net gain. But planning is difficult. And as a community-led organisation, we care deeply about how our buildings fit into the neighbourhood. So I want to emphasise how this proposal has evolved, taking on board and listening carefully to the concerns of our neighbours. And this has led to a combination of substantial design changes and technical work to provide reassurance and certainty. This includes reducing the height and massing, as you've seen, reshaping the building to address privacy and overlooking and perceived fire concerns, including removing a fourth floor bay and creating the 9-metre separation between the flats. We've repositioned windows and adjusted roofs and walls to the best of our ability without losing too many flats. The design changes have already led to the loss of several flats already. We've confirmed full fire safety compliance, and we've, as you've heard, increased the biodiversity within the site of importance for nature, replacing areas of hard standing with new planting, hedgerows and green roofs, delivering measurable net gains. We've improved the security and visibility of the Leather Market Gardens entrance, and we have proposed sensitive mitigation in relation to the artwork, and we have offered, and the offer remains open for relocation of that artwork. These changes demonstrate a design-led approach fully aligned with the London Plan, the Southwark Plan and National Planning Guidance. Officers have confirmed that daylight and sunlight impacts. Thank you. The daylight and sunlight impacts are acceptable, that privacy and overlooking impacts are mitigated, and that the scheme meets policy requirements on fire safety, heritage impacts, ecology and design quality. This is a community-led scheme that delivers the urgently needed social rent homes that we need. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Under time. Any questions for the applicant? Councillor Livingston, thank you. Richard.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I've got two key questions. So the first one is about the bedroom mix of the scheme. I mean, we've heard in the officer's explanation, and you set out about how part of the rationale for this is about addressing some of the huge problems we got with overcrowding. So given most of the issues that we have as local councils coming about overcrowding are a lack of 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom properties, to understand about the mix that you've got in this proposal, about why there aren't any 4-bedrooms, and why I think it's about 8 3-bedrooms that are in the proposal. What thought was given to providing larger homes as part of this?
Switch your microphone.
Apologies,
on,
yes, thank you.
Are you the architect?
Yes, I am. The size of the unit, a 3-bed and 4-bed, is obviously desirable as a starting point. Obviously, that there is only so many you will accommodate in that size. The larger units, the less units. So it was a balance between number of families versus size of families. And quite early on in the process with the applicant, it was clear that a number of units was beneficial as well as providing the size. 3-bed apartments are still very much needed, and there are a number of those in the proposal.
And could I add to that? Okay. So there are 8 3-beds, which is very good for overcrowding.
Sorry, just double check. I got that wrong. It's 6 3-beds.
Sorry, 6
that's my
3-beds.
fault.
Okay,
So
6
apologies.
3-beds. So there are a number of 3-beds. The majority, if not all, of the 2-beds are 4 persons, and 4 persons, without a question or doubt, there are many families who are in overcrowding, who are in a 1-bed, and that would really take them out. That would enable a family who is currently in overcrowding. So the 2-beds are actually really important contribution. The 1-beds, what we do is we offer some of the 1-beds to council tenants who their children have grown up, they're in 3- and 4-bed council homes. We offer the 1-beds as downsizing. We allow them to have some elements of their own design. This then in turn frees up a number of 3- and 4-bed council rent homes, and that is proven on various of our schemes. This is what we do, and we consult very early on this. So the 1-beds contribute to overcrowding, the 2-bed 4 persons contribute to overcrowding, as well as the 3-bed. So it is a very measured and balanced view of what is planning policy compliant and what will provide for the community.
Thank you. So my second question was about, we've heard from the objectors about their concern about the floor plan, effectively, of the building. The fact that we have a building that is sort of T-shaped and therefore stretches along the length, albeit with the Undercroft area, whereas the objectors were saying they would have, I'm not going to say no concerns, but would have had less concerns if it had only stretched as far along as to where the current wall of 26 is, or basically left a gap there. So just to understand, so I mean, obviously, I'm guessing there's about 3 or I think it's probably about 4 flats that you get through having that running the full length, but really just to understand whether that was the only consideration or whether there's any other considerations that you made in terms of this, in terms of where you drew the floor plan of the building.
Thank you for the question. The decision really is about on terms of the width and how the street scene is put together is a combination of things. A discussion on heritage and continuity and reinstating a historic line is part of it, but how these 2 buildings meet each other, number 22 and 26, it is very much considered in the design through early engagement with Secure by Design and whether a setback of 4 metres from the neighbouring building would be a better situation than the application which is put in front of you. So in 2021, we consulted with Secure by Design Outcome Officer, and presented the scheme that's in front of you, and she took an assessment of the existing condition. So the existing condition, there's a parking bay there which is typically used by the Leather Market JMB's site maintenance vehicle. It's quite a large, bulky vehicle. There's very little overlooking from number 26 to the route. So there's a public right-of-way through into the gardens, very well used, and there's some planting in that alley. So at the moment, it's not an area which has great overlooking. As you have seen, there's no overlooking from number 22. There are no windows in that elevation. So the existing condition is already with challenges in terms of overlooking, and overlooking is one of the strongest deterrents against antisocial behaviour, as according to this the Met Police's Secure by Design officer. Through creating this Undercroft area, we have the ability to control the lighting to a high degree, so we can provide lighting, so it has been designed by a level 4 lighting engineer to a British standard. There are many other measures that we can introduce to the area. That's a 3-minute timer, aren't I?
No, it's a slide. I was just thinking it might be easier if the committee could actually see the slide with the undercroft and the mitigation measures.
Yes.
It's easier if you can visually kind of have a look and talk that through. I think there was the before and after and the implementations. So I think, as Tom said, we'd met with the Secure by Design officer, the Metropolitan Police, as early as 2021 was the first
2021,
meeting?
which is a year before the application was made. Just to talk through the process, they do a high-level assessment of the scheme, so they will go into looking at the scale, massing, orientation. That's their view, and that's the advice they give pre-planning. To achieve the accreditation, the applicant or ourselves on behalf of the applicant would normally need to provide an evidence base of specific products that would be used to support the accreditation. So we would be giving exact ratings on doors, CCTV, access control, and all that stuff feeds through in the detailed design stage. So that's why they tend to get conditioned, because that information is never available at the application stage. But what they assess at this stage is whether the scheme could achieve Secure by Design Gold in the eventuality of time with the right evidence, and they are very clear on what that evidence should be. So the minutes of the meetings that we've held with Secure by Design Officer in 2021 and as recently as November 2025 clearly specify what the application will implement should it be permitted in terms of standards and the measures we're looking to introduce in the alleyway. So the lighting is one of them, because it provides much greater illumination, uniformity of light, so it avoids dark spots. The overlooking, so on the left-hand side of the image on the screen at the bottom there, they are full height windows that go directly into the JMB's office, which is a regularly occupied office space during working hours and beyond in the evenings when there are events on with the TRAs, and that provides significant overlooking, CCTV, full coverage of the area, deterrent CCTV signage, and the CCTV will be managed and controlled by the JMB. Low-level planting, so currently the planting is quite high. Secure by Design imposes a 1 metre limit to ensure you can see across the planting. So a number of quite clear Secure by Design measures which are included in their residential design standards that they have asked that we include. And following our agreement and our updating of the scheme to include these measures, they have reiterated their assertion that there's no reason this scheme would not achieve Secure by Design Gold in the fullness of time with evidence provided on the products being used.
And do you want to just talk about,
Can I just pick you up on the fullness of time? So that suggests that that would be achieved over time rather than instantaneous, and that concerns me somewhat.
In the fullness of time relates,
if all the mitigating measures cannot be implemented or put in situ right from the start, right from the get-go. And also, interestingly enough, and then you can, we've had a number of descriptions for this particular design, from underpass, undercroft, and now in your comments, alleyway, which raises alarms to me, because that sort of suggests, and going back to the objectors' concerns around antisocial behaviour. And even from that picture, you do get a sense of enclosure somewhat, even though it's a thoroughfare, if you like. But so if you could just sort of comment on that, please, I'd be really
of course
interested to hear what you say.
Of course, sorry.
Your response, I'd be interested.
Sorry. On the first point, on the wording of the in the fullness of time, that is that we would provide evidence to satisfy a condition that was imposed, and that evidence must be normally these would be a pre-commencement condition, so we would be providing that evidence prior to commencement or prior to occupation. So depending on your standard condition, Andre, on how that is put together, but normally it's pre-occupation condition. So it's not in the fullness of time in the life of the building, it's in the fullness of time of the design stage prior to occupation of the building. In terms of my description of this as alleyway, potentially that was not the best choice of words for how we would describe it. It's not what we consider it to be. It's a covered area that leads into a public park, which is, as Richard has described, is wide and tall, and not, it's not a long tunnel. It is a wide, 9 metre wide, 9 metre long covered area, which is 3 metres high.
Can I just...
And so, if we were to would you be prepared to meet the gold, since there is an accreditation standard, would you be prepared to meet the gold standard in your mitigating measures?
I think so it's the Metropolitan Police who have said, and it's quoted in the minutes from November 2025.
Simple answer, yes or no?
We would certainly, no one could ever guarantee what they can get at the end. You could not guarantee it. So what I would guarantee, absolutely guarantee, is we would put all the measures in place that the Metropolitan Police has asked us to put in place, and in their view, we then should achieve Secure by Design Gold. So in terms of whether we will implement everything that has been asked for, absolutely I can guarantee you that. But it's not within our power to say whether we'll absolutely get that certification. That is the view of the Metropolitan Police. So in terms of that balance, 100% we will guarantee we will put in place everything that she has asked for, to say the likelihood then is that we will achieve that. So you can absolutely hold us to all of the implementations that she has asked for, the mitigations that we have up there, we will put those in place. And absolutely we can be held to that. But it's not within our gift.
Well, I understand that, but there's a very clear set criteria by which you can achieve that, and you either pass it or you don't by putting in all those mitigating measures which fulfills the criteria. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor, I'll take Councillor Salmon first, followed by Councillor Emmanuel.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions. Number one, you're going to put CCTV in this area, and who's going to be watching it? Because, as you said, the building will be used some evenings, so I'm just curious where the cameras will be and who will be watching. And the other thing is, at any point, have you considered not going as close to 22 and covering up some rather beautiful wording from Dickens and some doors and things like that? Was there any point where you went higher and not as close to 22? Has there ever been a design?
Thank you for the question. I'll do my best to answer. Yes, we have considered whether setting the building back from the adjacent building would be a preferred route to take. There are a number of reasons why that was decided not to go ahead. So, as described, there are 4 two-bedroom apartments that sit above the access into the park. If we were to set the building back, we would not be able to achieve 2 4-bedroom apartments. They would need to be 2 1-bedroom apartments, which significantly compromises the planning mix. So we would then be looking to re-provide those 2 beds somewhere in the scheme. So fundamentally, the area of the scheme would be lower, and we would not be able to achieve the number of units or a compliant planning mix. Taller, we had very regular and quite lengthy discussions with Richard and on scale and massing and what was appropriate for the conservation area. I don't believe taller would be supported. Anything above 5 stories at the front, I would consider would be contrary to the discussions we've had with Richard previously.
Residents.
And yes, and residents, thank you. And then the final point on what a scheme might look like if we were to set the building back by So the path is approximately 4 metres wide. If we were to do the same thing, you would then have a 4 metre wide by 9 metre long route through, which would then enclose upon the parking space. So if we were to try and design out all covered areas, we would need to enclose the parking space within the building. And then that would effectively make it a garage, which would then kind of create a situation where there was very little overlooking from our building from the applicant's building number 26 onto this route through into the park. So you'd then be walking through a 4 metre wide route between two 5-storey high buildings. So that has been assessed and discussed with the design outcome officer, and her recommendation is that the current design offers greater overlooking, greater possibility for illumination. There are some additional measures. So we, at the application, for the majority of the life of the application, there's been some cycle storage in there. Cycles are a target for crime, so her advice is to remove them from that area and store them within the building, which is what we are proposing to do now. So on balance, the Metropolitan Police's advice is that the current scheme would be more supported than a narrow route between two 5-storey buildings that are spaced 4 metres apart. You can do, yeah.
It's going to be monitoring the CCTV is what Councillor Salmon's asking.
Okay, so there will be both the JMB and the CBS, and what we've put CCTV in some of our other existing schemes, and it's really acted as a deterrent. And when there has been an issue, because it's recorded for a certain period of time, so if anyone raises any issue or was anything, the CCTV goes to the police and we have evidence because it's captured and it's held for a period of time. So it's not as though someone sits there regularly, the whole day watching that CCTV, but we've definitely found it acts as a deterrent. And people know over time that, it is real and it goes to the police. And that is used by the police. It's one of their, their biggest tools for actually catching criminals. And if there are rough sleepers there, all that the residents need to do is report. If any of that's reported, we'll have the evidence then from the CCTV. We will then put measures in place to ensure that person, we will, with the police, we will approach them. But I think, as Tom said, if there is lighting, strong lighting, and that lighting can be strong because it's not reflecting into any homes, if that is really over your head, someone couldn't really sleep there, as well as all of the other measures that had been put in place. And really, if we halve that, you are then creating an alleyway, which, as Tom has said, the architect has said, the Metropolitan Police has concerns about that, because then you are creating, the situation there on the left, you are creating a worse situation than is currently there. And from a secure by design expert, a worse situation than what we are proposing. We have really thought about this over a long period of time. This application was submitted in 2022, and even after that, we have spent well over a year or two making significant changes based on the from the objectors, and really trying to accommodate the concerns. But we have to also balance that with security, all of these issues. And yes, for 4 or 5 homes, that is not, that's really important. That changes lives. 4 homes of a family, that completely changes their life. The artwork, we can re-provide that. It can look fantastic in the park. The visitors can go and look at the park. That's also fantastic. We can do exactly that. It will be no cost. We will take it off. We will put it there. We will work. If it was a new piece of artwork, we would consult with the residents. We've said they can decide what it's going to be. So this isn't about not listened to. We really have listened, and it's in the balance of everything that we have spent years and a lot of money really trying to accommodate. And we have come up with what is the best solution for this proposal.
So just as an understanding of that, no one will be looking at the cameras, but you will have a recording of incidents.
Absolutely.
That's not very reassuring from a security point of view. If I'm walking through, we've said this a million times to people.
Okay.
We try to explain that cameras are only recording it. It isn't going to make that alleyway safer.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say, because not watching the cameras, not getting the police there immediately, but saying, don't worry, we've got a recording of you being smacked over the head or something like that, isn't going to make it safer and isn't necessarily going to catch the culprits either.
Okay.
But it's a shame that no one will be watching it at the times in the evening when people say that there's problems.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Livingston?
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions about the safety issue. So the right-hand picture we've got there is showing sort of fence and gates at the northern end of the Undercroft area, I think we're calling it, which presumably is locked in at night so that people can't get through. It's not locked at night, and that's to maintain the public right of way.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because it just made me think that a lot of this would be resolved if we could find a way of securing this area at night, and that would presumably resolve the issue if this couldn't be accessed at night. Has that been something that's been considered, or is that not possible because of the
It's something we absolutely did consider, and we've looked at very many options, but the reality is we would be in breach of a public right of way if we put anything to lock any of those areas, or put, we absolutely did consider it.
Thank you. And I just wanted to go back to the issue about the gold standard, just so I understood it a little bit better, because you might know, you might not, you might need to ask questions elsewhere. But in terms of the accreditation, is that something that's given after everything is built and is in place by the police? Is that how it works from what you're saying? Is that just so I understand the sort of order of these things?
You can secure the accreditation prior to construction commencement by providing more detailed information beyond the planning stage. You tend not to specify exact products at planning stage. We will do that in the next stage should we get consent. What we do agree to and have agreed to within the minutes is what the rating of those products would be. So there's a loss prevention, there's an LPS rating of SR2, which is higher than your typical PAS 24 rating that you might have elsewhere. So in the discussions, the Metropolitan Police are advising for the higher rating, and we're confirming we will meet that, but we haven't said which manufacturer product that would be. That evidence is normally required to achieve the gold rating at the end. So that's done as a it's normally a preoccupation condition, which is before people move in, and that tends to be the way that it's done.
Right. So just to talk that through and to get my thinking right on this, you're saying that you'd like this to be gold standard. The police are saying there's no reason why it can't achieve that.
Correct.
But we won't know that until a later stage because of what materials are used, what manufacturers you use. If, for example, you got to a point where you'd sort of chosen all of this stuff and you'd given this to the police, and the police said, well, that's not good enough because you've gone with this supplier rather than this supplier. Just to understand, is there an opportunity for you to put that right? Just so that we can understand, I think, given what the chair was saying earlier about conditions, I'm really trying to test out how reasonable it would be to have a condition on this matter. So really understanding the sequencing of it, what you could do to amend things at what stage, is really critical in that, so that I can understand how reasonable a condition could be, or how we frame a condition in a way that would be reasonable.
Sure. Thank you for the question. The process, so we're at stage of design, REBA stage 3. REBA stage 4 is a much more detailed design, and that's where we prepare the information that will go into the building contract. Now, in some building contracts, you may decide that you will give the contractor the ability to change products. We would not be doing that. If there's something was critical to a condition, we will be specifying, we are responsible for the design, the specification of each element. We will specify it, and it would have a performance rating. Secure by design the contractor would be contractually bound to deliver on that product if we said they were not able to deviate from it. Secure by Design have a extensive list of member companies that they their website direct you to. So if you're looking for a cycle storage door, you will be able to go on their website, and they will have a number of specifications of people you can go to. So if, for instance, one of them was not able to meet the requirement, then you would have a choice from many others that have the same security rating. So it's not a limiting. Achieving Secure by Design is not limiting in your selection or your procurement method with your contractor. These are things which are regularly done. We completed a scheme in South Bermondsey that acquired Secure by Design Gold last year in the same way. So it's these are not things that are beyond our control to implement into the construction contract.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any further questions for the applicants? Okay, thank you very much indeed. That's it. Do we have any supporters that live within 100 metres of the development? Well, no, it's...
Just around the height of the building, you talk about the
Right, well, okay, we'll come back to asking, thank you. But are you an objector or supporter?
I am an objector.
Right, well, then that discussion should have been had with Ms Davis. Okay.
The information has just been made aware to us that a fifth floor was proposed, well, not to anyone, residents, but it was proposed and was objected to on the grounds of restoration.
Thank you.
I think chair members can maybe ask Richard about the kind of design proposals and his input if you have further questions on that during deliberation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because we've got an opportunity to go back to the officers. No, that's all right. But thank you indeed. Any supporters that live within 100 metres? And ward councillors. Yeah. So, Councillor Hickson, Emily, if you could kindly formally introduce yourself, and then you'll have up to 3 minutes, and I'll give you 30 seconds before the end. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I'm here in support of the application because it delivers real, lasting benefits to our residents, and because it's been shaped by several years in response to scrutiny, challenge and local concern. The most important benefit of this application is, of course, housing. This scheme delivers 26 council rent homes on a brownfield site in a borough that is facing acute housing pressure. These are generally affordable council rent homes in an era where delivering council homes is becoming harder and harder, where the demand is just going up and up. So in planning terms, I think that carries substantial weight, but more importantly, in the terms of my poorest residents in London Bridge, it means stability for 26 lucky families or individuals who are otherwise stuck in insecure and indecent housing. So second, and importantly, the proposal strengthens local services in my ward and surrounding wards. It replaces outdated offices for the JMB with modern fit-for-purpose office space, supporting staff who serve over 1,500 households in this local area. We're also providing new community facilities. So this is not just housing above offices. This is an investment in the day-to-day functioning of this ward of 1,500 homes in the immediate area, and those are beyond the individuals that live in this building. So third, the scheme makes a serious effort to improve the quality of the environment around it, urban greening targets, delivering the biodiversity net gain, new planting, green roofs, better drainage, cycle storage, and heat pumps and solar panels that help reduce fuel poverty. I also want to directly acknowledge the areas where residents have raised concern and where continued care and scrutiny by this committee is needed. So first on security, which we've discussed at length tonight, particularly around the Undercroft, Resident fears around antisocial behaviour are understandable, and I'd be happily give the committee more context on antisocial behaviour in my ward. But it's encouraging that the scheme is expected to meet Secure by Design, and the security proposals that have been proposed tonight should be locked in through condition, I believe, and through the build phase. Also, importantly, there should be measures in place. I've suggested that the lighting and CCTV should be in the build phase structure of this passage. So on fire safety as well, I'm pleased that these concerns have been examined in depth, and that the fire safety engineers do not believe that those affect the fire safety status of the adjacent buildings, but continued kind of diligence and scrutiny of that is of course important, and I expect this to be a focus in the construction management plan as well. So lastly, on the artwork, of course, there's a genuine sense of loss around that visibility, and that should be acknowledged. And I'm hoping if this proposal is permitted tonight, there'll be a refreshed conversation between residents, the developer and the freeholder of that building. So taken together, this is a well thought through scheme. It delivers clear public benefit, responds to need, and has addressed concerns in a serious and proportionate manner.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Parton, followed by Councillor Livingston.
Touched on the point about ASB in the wider context of your ward. Are you able to give that additional context?
Yeah, I mean, residents are absolutely right to be concerned. As I said, we are a ward right adjacent to a major public station, which brings drugs into our ward. This has a knock-on effect on the types of issues that they've described, people taking drugs. In my experience, and of course, the consultations with the Metropolitan Police are based on data. But in my experience, the acute problems we have are on the Kipling estate, which is on the other side of Western Street. They are usually where people can go into kind of more secure spaces than this odd undercroft is going to provide. This kind of throughway into the park is not the type of space where we're seeing the most acute problems. I'm not saying that this wouldn't, have an important or the needs for mitigation here are important. They definitely are, and particularly during the build phase, I think they are as well. But I'm convinced through these mitigations that this problem it has been dealt with, and this would not be where I would see the most acute area of ASB in our ward by a long way.
Thank you, Councillor Livingston.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a very different question, which was something I hadn't really considered in much detail until you presented, which is really about understanding the benefits in terms of the J&B office space. Because I've been inside that building, it seems to be reasonably right, perhaps a little dated, but just to understand that. Stand that a little bit more, as that's something we've not heard more about.
This is an office space that residents in our ward, in Chaucer Ward, go to sometimes daily. This is a space for where lots of people work to service our ward, but also residents go to. So having that as a refreshed space, and with these community rooms that they're proposing as well, is going to be an added benefit. And so what the point I really wanted to make is that the proper functioning of that office space is very, very important to the lives of not people that just live in this building, but that live in the 1,500 homes that are serviced by this building every day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Emily, Councillor Hickson. The owners of 22, according to the report, officers' report, have been quite adamant that they are not prepared to consider or contemplate or enter into any discussion around relocating bit of artwork, and we've heard from the objectors alongside issues around ASB, which we've discussed at length. There was sort of an impassioned view at the abhorrent view from their point of obscuring, from their perspective, of obscuring that artwork and the benefits it has brought to local people visiting the area, etc., etc. So why do you think that should we be minded to approve the development, post-development, that they would be keen to enter into such a discussion? Well, where is the optimism? Where does that arise from?
Well, I hope that there will be a common, like the certainty whether the development is happening or not will provide then a kind of common context or common goal to then have a proper discussion on the where we move that artwork to. It is a genuine loss. I totally agree. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. It makes the street, but I fall on the side of what the applicant said, where on the necessity of these homes. So my services are here to try and chair such meetings, to try and get to a proper resolution, to hold the developer to account on what they've said they will provide in terms of the money, the resources to move that artwork. And with a broad set of residents, so the people that live in that building, but also there are other people that that artwork's really important too. So I see no reason why we couldn't do that, and that would be my hope.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor? Thanks, Emily. Thank you, Councillor Hickson.
And thank you, residents.
Righto, thank you. We had a question around proposals, Richard, and various iterations of design, etc. So could you just go through a little bit about, give us the journey that this particular development has taken? Just, just a synopsis, a summary in terms of heights, etc., and widths and space between the adjacent 22 Leather Market, etc. Just very, very quickly, because I'd like to wrap this up.
Okay, Councillor, I was just looking at my colleague Andre to try and assist me. We've moved away from his presentation, but as you hopefully will remember, members, you have your pack. You saw quite a lengthy process where originally the scheme came in with a 10-storey building, which was way too much in terms of the townscape and its overbearing impact. And in fact, we've gone through a whole series of iterations to bring the primary and the secondary heights down. I'm talking about primary and secondary, and I'll explain why. But the illustration you have in front of you, I think, is the critical one, which is the view from Weston Street into Leather Market Street with the Grade 2 listed leather and hide exchange building in front of you. Now, this is the height we thought was the appropriate height for the building as it presents onto the street, and that's ground plus 4 stories. The person in the audience was saying, well, we've not heard about the additional 5th floor. We certainly did look at the 5th floor at that point, and we thought it would actually do 2 things. One was it would actually make the building feel slightly more overbearing within what would become what is a relatively narrow street. And I think you have to bear that in mind. It would take it higher than 106 Weston Street, which is the building in the foreground to the left. It would take it significantly higher than the objector's building, which, remember, is only 17 metres to the parapet. 13 metres to the parapet. This would then take it to something like 21 metres. So it's effectively 2 additional stories. It would be too much. And I think if you then look, if you scroll down, it would start to feel overbearing on the listed building. And I think, scroll up. There is a long view down Weston Street, and you'd start to read your your additional story is dominating that view when you look across the front of those Grade 2 listed buildings on the east side of Weston Street. It would start to catch your eye a bit too much.
All righty. Thank you for summing that up. Are there any further questions to the officers? Yeah.
Yeah, just
Go
to
ahead,
just for a bit of completeness, I'd just come back to Michael. Given the discussions that we had about the gold standard and conditions, given everything that we've heard about whether that does feel like it could be a reasonable condition if we were to include that.
Short answer, yes. NPPF test planning conditions should be imposed only when they're necessary, relevant to planning and the development, enforceable, precise, and reasonable in all other respects. I think we've heard the kind of reason why that condition would be justified in planning terms, why, although the council's usual approach isn't to specify gold certification, it might be justified in these particular circumstances. I think the developer clarified that they feel comfortable that they would be able to achieve that and it would be within their control, so we're not imposing a condition that would, prevent the development from coming forward. And I think it would be relatively simple. At the moment, the condition says prior to occupation, a satisfactory secured by design inspection must take place, and the resulting secured by design certificate shall be submitted to and approved by the local planning authority. That could just be amended to say, and the resulting secured by design gold certification. And that would mean that they would have to meet the gold certification.
Thank you, Councillor Livingston, and thank you, Michael, for that. David.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a follow-up question on that about what would then happen if they, for example, I think the applicant talked at length about saying how they could do all the steps they think is necessary to try and get the gold certification and then it not get the certification. Very unlikely circumstance.
The architect didn't say that, the project manager said that.
Yes, so the applicant, yeah. And they said that they could do all of that, but in the circumstance that then they didn't get the gold application, are we working on the basis that then they don't have planning permission?
It means, so it's relatively common to impose conditions like this, which basically say, and in this case it would be prior to occupation, so it means they wouldn't be able to occupy the development until they had met that standard. So, we heard earlier in the discussion there was a similar one with Thames Water about drainage, sewage details, for example. So it's, it's sort of not uncommon. And it doesn't mean they wouldn't have planning permission. It just means that if they then went on and occupied the development without that certification, they'd be in breach of a planning condition, which could then be enforced against by the council.
Sorry, Michael. I think it's condition 3 is a prior to commencement. Secure by design measures, condition 3, prior to commencement.
Yeah, it has to be prior to occupation.
We'll change it to occupation. Yep.
So apologies, the condition requires prior to commencement, the details, it's condition 3, Andre's correct, page 172. The details are submitted and approved in writing, and then they have to be implemented prior to occupation, is the condition. So I think the amendment to the condition would just require the details. I think the condition would require gold certification prior to occupation would be the amendment.
Yeah.
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 So let's, any further questions? Or, so, I will say, because obviously, Richard, you went through those slides and you gave us the journey and told the story a little bit from photographic evidence over time. I think 1907, I think, over time on 22 Leather Market, and particularly around the internal wall, which I hadn't prior to this evening's meeting, and hadn't had an appreciation that what is now in situ, those steel doors were bricked up. I thought they were original doors from right from the origins of the building. So, but it does say, and that was one of the reasons why because it does say in the report, page 58, paragraph, it does say, anyway, the wall and its doors are a surviving feature of note. The wall and its doors are a surviving feature of note that together with the artwork contribute to the historic character and visual interest. So that's incorrect then, is it?
Apologies, Chair, it should say doorways as opposed to the actual doors. So the actual openings, I would amend those words. Thank you.
Right, that's another amendment for the report. Thank you. All right, let's just get a sense of...
Sorry, Chair, one last question, which was just to follow up on the overlooking issue. So we heard that, I think it was flat 14 in 22, there was this concern about overlooking. I think it was a 9-metre gap, but just to hear officers' view on that, just so we got that.
I did make a note of that somewhere, actually. Yes, no, thank you. Yes.
I've lost my slides.
Okay.
So this is the slide, which is the east elevation, where I refer to the window on the top floor. Next slide, it's this window here. My cursor is. So it's roughly 9 meters to the side elevation of that flat. But you can see the private terrace has doors and a window. So if that window is obscured glazed up to 1.7 meters above floor level, it wouldn't significantly impact on the quality of accommodation. So that's something that could be imposed. Is 9 meters.
Yes.
And if you look at the south elevation, you've got doors and a window. So this window on that elevation could also be obscured glazed up to 1.7 meters above floor level. So not the entire window, but up to 1.7 meters high. So members,
What sort of room would that serve?
it's in the next slide. So this is the living, open plan living area.
So you'd have
Dual aspect.
dual
Just-
aspect, so you'd have some obscure
Yeah.
glazing.
Just on that one window, yes.
Right, okay.
But, sorry, Andre, just to be clear, at the moment, glazing isn't proposed.
Yeah, glazing is in this part, yeah.
So that would have to be a
Okay.
condition,
So
wouldn't
half
it?
of the window is.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that image shows half of the window is glazing.
That's undesirable though, isn't it? In a sort of living, habitable, that's a living room, open plan living room.
Open plan living, yes.
To have.
Let me just see.
It's not ideal, is it?
They don't have other windows.
Oh, I know, but why would you want, you know?
On slide 62, I have an image of a very oblique image, but can you see this is the elevation they would look onto? So there's a window in the far corner there. Otherwise, I think there's one more small window which you just can't see.
Yes, this is our flat, so we'll tell you what it exactly is.
There's the-
into a bedroom, our like future child's bedroom on the right hand side, and our main living space, which is like a big window, which this is going to cause the biggest issues for us. This window here, which the balcony will look directly into.
Thank you, thank you. Any further questions, colleagues? Just give colleagues a few minutes to.
Secured by design condition is repeated twice in the draft conditions. There's condition 3 and condition 17. Do we need condition 17?
Anything else?
Yeah, it's a little Please check. Yeah, it's a little unfortunate that, I mean, we've got some of the information here, but, yeah, it's a little unfortunate in 68 we can't quite see how the windows in 22 line up with the windows in the proposal. So it's slightly difficult to understand what overlooks where and what the, yeah, just trying to understand the impact really.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if there's any help that anybody can give us on that so I understand it. I mean, maybe.
I mean, to me, it's less than favourable, to be honest. But, you know, as you say, without like the finer detail. But my initial, impressions are that's undesirable.
Can we change the glass, the type of glass that they have at the window? You know, you can get the windows with the bubbly kind of looking glass that you could see out of, but nobody can see into.
Can you?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
Councillor, that's effectively what's proposed with the glazed. So the glazed window for that particular window is being proposed to mitigate the potential overlooking.
Okay.
But it's 1.7, so it's like is it the lower third or lower 2/3? Which way round is it?
The lower two.
The lower 2/3. So it's like this. What
Yeah,
we've got
absolutely,
here.
like what we have
That's
there.
exactly what.
Absolutely.
That's what it refers
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
well, that's the proposal.
So the proposal is for the glass to look like that in the room in question that looks going straight to.
Yeah, which-
I don't know exactly if there is a perfect alignment between window and.
It mitigates the potential overlooking with potentially the downside of, for the future occupier, it means in your living area you have a window that's not fully transparent.
And just to check from this map here, it looks like there are two windows. Are there two that could potentially be looking at 22 Leather Market, or am I seeing this wrong?
Andre, do you want to bring up
So it may be 67 as well, it's worth looking at.
It's just not very clear from this image, but it does look like there are two windows.
In conjunction again.
Can I just point out that this window may also need to be obscured laser in the. I'll show it on the. So this window at the moment is clear, but as members say, it looks like this window there isn't a. This location of the corner window is probably there at 22. Slide 60, where did
66.
Andre or Richard? Oh, that's a lot of windows that, in one.
Excuse me.
In
Would you like the architect, because it's getting a little bit confused with all the different things and if you'd like just the architect to come and explain exactly what the situation is, I think it would really help.
Right. Excuse me. Right. Thank you. Through the chair, please. Thank you. I mean, equally, who needs to understand this is we've got our design and concert. So, Richard, can I ask for a response from you, please?
Well, in terms of the windows to the side, I remember this is an open plan kitchen diner. So there will be a lot of light, well, a good aspect to the flat looking forward onto Leather Market Street. As Andre says, the side windows, the flank windows could look much similar to what we have behind us, and that could operate for both windows. The alternative would be to come up with some form of slight fin detail for the back window, which would steer views past the building next door. Now, that's something we can look at in detail with the architects by condition.
What do you mean fin detail? I don't understand.
It's like a directional window. You put limits to angle the view. So you're not looking direct, but you've got a view to the side. And that would take you beyond the back of number 22 with that directional view. So you'd still have an outlook, but it would be just guided, so you're not looking directly across. So it'd be like fins like this. So you look like that.
Would it be sensible, given the discussion, if members were minded to approve, just to impose a condition saying details of these two windows shall be submitted to and approved by the planning authority prior to occupation, just to make sure that that it's done properly? I don't know. It's the.
Could we condition that?
Yeah, for the details of the windows to be submitted to and approved by the local planning authority prior to occupation.
Would it be possible to, I don't know if it's worth mentioning there, or maybe whether it's just for the minutes of this meeting, that it would be with due consideration for the privacy concerns of residents?
The reason for imposing the condition would be to protect residents' amenity.
Tonight.
I think, Chair, that we, obviously the benefits outweigh the other issues to do with the building beside them. I do think that the word overbearing, if you'd come to me and said, Jane, we're going to go one floor higher, but we're going to move away from a building that is looked at by tourists and loved and things like that, but it will be an overbearing building that we're going to, I think I could have lived with overbearing, because there's lots of buildings in London that aren't acceptable in the area they are, and so I'm disappointed on that, but I understand it's not a good reason to refuse, but I think we could have done just a little bit better on this one. I really do. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I think I'm minded to approve. I think the substantial community benefits of affordable housing provided on site significantly outweigh the substantial concerns around antisocial behaviour and crime. I think those are really significant issues, and I think the conversation that we've had around conditions and it's in particular conditioning the gold-plated secure by design, I think go as far as I think is reasonable for the applicant to go, bearing in mind the significant community benefit of the affordable housing.
Yeah, I'm in a similar place to both Councillor Salmon and Councillor Parton. I definitely agree with Jane's point that, I think there might have been a better design that was possible that avoided some of these issues. But we are where we are, and I don't think that those grounds are strong enough to turn it down. I mean, I do hope we do get somewhere with the artwork, because I think it is generally a nice, positive addition to Leather Market Street, and I hope there is a way of preserving that or finding a way of relocating that. The idea of it being hidden behind this building doesn't seem ideal, but I accept that that's kind of in the hands of the freeholder, and I kind of get the point that Councillor Hickson made about, when the reality of this is there, then perhaps there might be some movement to find a way of doing that. I do think those two conditions that we've added as part of all of this about what we can do about the obscured glazing to try and make life more bearable for the residents at number 14, I think are very important. I have to say, this has been one I sort of flipped and flopped a little bit whilst I've heard this. I did think that the objectors did make a very strong point, and I think those points about safety in particular sort of rung true to me. So I think getting that condition about the gold standard in terms of crime prevention, designing out crime is very important. But I think given that, and I think given the point that we definitely do need those 26 council homes, that's very important. We all know the desperate need there are for those homes.
No, sorry. All comments. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir.
For me, with all the recommendations that have been made in order to improve the situation, I think it's a good idea. I'm sorry that some people have to go through all of this, but there's a lot of people out there who are in worse conditions, and they're in mold, they're in everything. If they can get an opportunity to get a safe space for their kids, I think it's a little thing. So I will approve. So sorry.
Sorry, so, because I've given you greater leverage then. Well, not everyone. Not everyone. Okay, so I understand that we have to strike a balance between, the benefits of an application against anything else. And I feel very strongly about the heritage and architectural and cultural preservation of our borough and heritage nationally and internationally. I think it is absolutely sacrilege to think it's perfectly permissible, and I know it's within it's policy compliant and etc. On principle, just on the an artist's work which has been commissioned, which has brought a lot of joy to local residents, tourists, international visitors, to completely cover it up and obscure, somebody's livelihood that was commissioned. I think that's sending a really, really, it's sending the wrong message, because on the one hand, we promote, we advocate, we try to encourage the arts, etc., and the creative arts, and then 20 years ago that was something that was considered. And I know time moves on, but that has now become part of our heritage. It reflects the history of the borough and the nation, and to then come along and say, well, it's perfectly. And notwithstanding, I understand the 26. I, more than anyone else, understand the need for those homes. And I know I get casework day in, day out on overcrowding, and I understand that. But I think it's sending a really, really the wrong message to say that we can just come along, at will and obscure that and not pay any due diligence and sensitivity to the art. So that I'm unhappy about. And obviously I'm unhappy about, and I do believe, and I do agree with the objectors, I do think that underpass, I live near one, and the sleep, it doesn't matter how bright, it doesn't matter what the lighting is like. And I totally, I welcome and I celebrate and I thank the applicants for agreeing to endeavour to achieve the gold standard, but I do recognise that it will become a hub, and it's likely to become a hub of antisocial behaviour. That is, it's replicated around the borough. In terms of, and I do think an open space and sufficient distance between the two adjacent buildings would have been better. And in terms of feeling safe and I think it would have created greater reconnaissance and openness if it remained open. And what am I trying to say? Excuse me, I'm just trying to think through my thoughts here. It's unhelpful. I'm being supportive and it's unhelpful. I don't need your asides, thank you. But I think keeping it open, and I get the officers, comments, and I understand it replicates the past history and the existence of current undercrofts or passageways, but they're all arched. Why couldn't it have been arched? That would have, the ones opposite on the Grade 2 listed building are arched, and all the ones that I've looked around since I've read the report are all arched, and this doesn't, to me, add any benefits to that particular streetscape. I disagree. So I will be voting against. I'll be going, but I recognise that my colleagues are in favour for the reasons, and I perfectly understand that and respect that. So can I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
I can propose it.
Right, so there are some additional comments that you would need to say in terms of the amendments and the conditions that that would have to be. It just seems contradictory for me to propose.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So the recommendation, the proposal would be that permission be granted in accordance with the conditions contained in the main report, the addendum report, and the obligations in the legal agreement contained in the main report and the addendum report, with the amended secured by design condition, gold certification, and also a condition requiring details of windows to be submitted and approved prior to occupation.
Sorry, Michael, can I just check the artwork? Is it to be provided?
The artwork, that condition is in the addendum report. So that was a condition requiring that new artwork be provided as part of the development with consultation with local residents as well. But that's in the addendum report. So, yeah.
Agreed. Thanks, Michael. Happy to propose on that basis. Could we take a vote of all those in favour of the proposals? Yeah, and all those against.
Thank you, colleagues. That has been recommended. So I thank colleagues for all your hard work. I thank our visitors this evening. And I thank officers and thank you, Michael. Okay, that concludes our meeting.